The champagne flutes clinked as my brother Knox and his new wife shared their first toast as husband and wife. I stood in the corner of the grand ballroom, my bridesmaid dress itching at my neck, while my mother dabbed tears from her eyes with an embroidered handkerchief. Everything was perfect. The flowers, the music, the venue. It should have been perfect. But all I could think about was the acceptance letter burning a hole in my purse. I'm Lena. And this was the day my future went up in flames. Did you tell her yet? My father's whispered voice carried from behind a marble column. I hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but something in his tone made me freeze. Gilbert, please, not today. My mother's voice trembled. We can discuss this after the wedding. Ainsley, we have to tell her soon. The deposit for Stanford is due next week. We spent it, okay? My mother hissed. The wedding went over budget, way over. We had to use Lena's college fund. The champagne glass nearly slipped from my fingers. I set it down on a nearby table, my hand shaking. All of it? My father asked. Every penny? She sighed. But Knox needed this. You know how important appearances are in his circle. This wedding will open so many doors for him. I stepped backward, my heel catching on the hem of my dress. The ripping sound drew their attention and both my parents whirled around. Lena! My mother's face went pale. Sweetheart, how long have you been standing there? Long enough. My voice came out steadier than I felt. You spent my college fund on his wedding. We can explain. My father started reaching for my arm. I jerked away. Explain what? That Knox's one day matters more than my entire future. That's not fair, my mother protested. We'll figure something out. Maybe community college for a year or two. Community college? I laughed, but it sounded more like a sob. I got into Stanford. Stanford? Do you know how hard I worked for that? Keep your voice down, my father warned, glancing around. People are starting to stare. From across the room, Knox caught my eye. He was beaming, completely oblivious to the bomb that had just been dropped on my life. His new wife hung on his arm, both of them the picture of privilege and happiness. I have to get out of here. I turned toward the exit. Lena, wait! My mother grabbed my wrist. You can't leave. You're in the wedding party. We still have photos. I yanked my arm free. Photos? Are you serious right now? You just told me you spent my entire future on centerpieces and a chocolate fountain. We'll make it up to you, my father promised. Just give us time to... To what? To figure out how to explain why Knox deserves everything and I deserve nothing? I could feel tears threatening, but I refused to let them fall. I'm done being the afterthought in this family. I stormed toward the exit, ignoring the whispers and stares. Knox called out my name, but I didn't stop. I couldn't bear to look at him, knowing that his perfect day had cost me everything I'd worked for. In the parking lot, I kicked off my heels and pulled my acceptance letter from my purse. The Stanford letterhead gleamed in the setting sun. 4 years of straight A's, countless all-nighters, and endless extracurriculars. All for nothing. Lena! A voice called out. It was Vanessa, my best friend since middle school. She'd been invited as Knox's wife's college roommate. What happened in there? I told her everything, the words tumbling out between gasps for air. That's messed up, she said, finally pulling me into a hug. What are you going to do? I looked down at the acceptance letter one last time before ripping it in half. I'm going to prove them wrong. I don't need their money. I don't need their approval. And I definitely don't need their pity. Where will you go? Anywhere but here. I pulled away from her embrace and squared my shoulders. They think Knox is their only shot at having successful children. Fine. Let them think that. But one day, they're going to realize what they threw away. As I walked away from the venue, my bare feet on the cold pavement, I made myself a promise. The next time I saw my family, I wouldn't be the little sister who gave up her future for her brother's perfect day. I would be someone they couldn't ignore. Someone they would have to respect. And maybe, just maybe, someone they would regret underestimating. 3 months after the wedding, I was balancing plates at Joe's diner during the morning rush when Vanessa slid into my section, her designer handbag a stark contrast to the worn vinyl booths. You look terrible, she said, examining me over her menu. Thanks. I topped off a customer's coffee before dropping into the seat across from her. That's exactly what every girl wants to hear at 7 a.m. I mean it, Lena. When was the last time you slept? I glanced at my watch. Does a 2-hour nap between shifts count? No, it doesn't. She reached across the table and grabbed my hand. This isn't sustainable. Waiting tables during the day, bartending at night, and squeezing in community college classes between shifts, you're going to burn out. What choice do I have? I pulled my hand away to jot down an order from the next table. Unless you've got a spare trust fund lying around. Actually, Vanessa's eyes lit up in that dangerous way they did when she had an idea. I might have something better. Before she could elaborate, my manager called out from the kitchen. Order up, Lena. Table 6 is waiting. Hold that thought, I said, rushing to grab the plates. When I returned, Vanessa had her laptop open. Remember that business course I'm taking at Berkeley? We have this project about identifying market gaps and developing solutions. Fascinating, I deadpanned, refilling her coffee. But I've got 3 more tables to... Just listen. She turned the screen toward me. You know how impossible it is to find good event planning services for small businesses, right? Everyone either caters to massive corporations or wedding parties. I flinched at the word wedding. Sorry, she said quickly. But think about it. All these startup companies want to host launch parties, networking events, holiday celebrations, but they can't afford the big firms and the budget options are terrible. And we could fill that gap. Her eyes were sparkling now. I've got the business background, you've got the organizational skills. I've seen how you juggle 3 jobs and school. Plus, you practically ran every school event in high school. I laughed. With what startup capital? In case you forgot, I'm living in a studio apartment the size of a closet. I've got savings, she said. And my parents always said they'd invest in my first business venture. We could start small, build a portfolio. The kitchen bell rang again. Order up! Think about it, Vanessa called as I rushed off. We could call it white glove events or something. Throughout my shift, her words kept playing in my head. Between refills and orders, I found myself sketching ideas on my notepad. Contact lists, potential clients, marketing strategies. That evening, I was counting my tips when my phone buzzed. A text from Knox. Mom and Dad keep asking about you. Can we talk? I deleted it without responding. Another buzz. They feel terrible, Lena. We all do. Delete. The third buzz was from Vanessa. Coming to the bar tonight. We're discussing this business idea, whether you like it or not. True to her word, she showed up at the dive bar where I worked, looking completely out of place in her corporate attire. She waited until my break, then pulled out a detailed business plan. I've run the numbers, she said, spreading papers across the sticky bar top. With my savings and a small loan from my parents, we could start within 3 months. It's risky, I said, but I was already reading through her projections. Life is risky. Working yourself to death is risky. This? She tapped the business plan. This is an opportunity. I thought about my cramped apartment, my endless shifts, my mounting student loans from community college. Then I thought about Knox's wedding, about my parents' betrayal, about the future I was supposed to have. If we do this, I said slowly, we do it right. No cutting corners. No settling for second best. Vanessa grinned. Is that a yes? It's a maybe. I grabbed a napkin and started writing. We'll need to research competitors, build a website, establish vendor relationships. Already started, she interrupted, pulling up more documents on her phone. I've been planning this for weeks. I looked at my friend, really looked at her. While I'd been drowning in self-pity and exhaustion, she'd been throwing me a lifeline. Why are you doing this? I asked. Really? Her expression softened. Because you deserve better than this, Lena. Because I watched you work your ass off for years, only to have it all taken away. And because I know that given half a chance, you'll build something amazing. My break timer beeped, signaling my return to the bar. Okay, I said, standing up. Let's do it. But we're not calling it white glove events. Vanessa laughed. What then? I thought about my family, about proving them wrong, about rising above their expectations. Phoenix events, I said, because we're going to rise from these ashes and soar. And that concludes our presentation on Phoenix Events' 5-year growth strategy, I said, clicking to the final slide. Any questions? The boardroom of venture capitalists stared back at me, their expressions unreadable. 5 years had transformed me from a waitress in a diner to the CEO of the fastest-growing event management company in the Bay Area. The tailored suit I wore cost more than 3 months of my old rent. One investor raised his hand. Impressive numbers, Ms. Lena. But your competitor, Quantum Events, has been making aggressive moves in your market space. How do you plan to maintain your edge? I smiled, having anticipated this question. Quantum Events focuses on quantity. We focus on quality. Our client retention rate is 97% compared to their 63%. In fact, my phone buzzed on the table. Knox's name flashed across the screen. I turned it face down. In fact, I continued, we just secured an exclusive contract with Silicon Valley's top 3 emerging tech companies for their entire event calendar next year. After the meeting, Vanessa caught up with me in the elevator. They're going to invest. I could see it in their faces. She paused. Was that Knox calling again? 3rd time this week. I checked my messages. 7 missed calls, 12 texts. Maybe you should hear him out, she suggested. It's been 5 years. 5 years of radio silence until he needs something. The elevator doors opened to our office floor. No thanks. Our office occupied the entire 20th floor of a downtown high-rise. Glass walls offered panoramic views of the city, and our logo, a rising phoenix in sleek silver, dominated the reception area. Employees bustled about, coordinating events worth millions. Ms. Lena, my assistant called out, Mr. Welch from Quantum Events is on line 1, says it's urgent. I exchanged looks with Vanessa. Quinton Welch was our biggest competitor, known for his aggressive takeover attempts of smaller companies. Put him through to my office, I said, then turned to Vanessa. Want to listen in? She grinned. Wouldn't miss it. I pressed the speaker button. Quinton, what a surprise. Lena, his smooth voice filled the room. Congratulations on the tech contracts. Very impressive. Cut to the chase, Quinton. What do you want? Straight to business. That's what I've always admired about you. He paused for effect. I'm calling about your brother. My hand froze over the mousepad. Excuse me? Knox White. He's been quite persistent in trying to get a position at Quantum. Says he has family connections in the industry. I laughed, but there was no humour in it. Is that what he's telling people? I thought it was interesting considering you two haven't spoken in years. Quinton's voice dripped with false concern. I'd hate to see someone trading on connections they don't have. Before I could respond, my assistant buzzed again. Ms. Lena, your brother is in the lobby. He's insisting on seeing you. Vanessa raised her eyebrows. Speak of the devil. Quinton, I'll have to call you back. I hung up without waiting for his response. Want me to have security remove him? Vanessa offered. I stood up, smoothing my suit. No, it's time I heard what he has to say. The elevator doors opened and there stood Knox, my golden boy brother, looking decidedly less golden. His suit was off the rack, his tie slightly crooked. The years hadn't been as kind to him as they had to me. Lena, he said, stepping forward, you look successful. What do you want, Knox? He glanced around the office, taking in the views, the busy employees, the clear signs of prosperity. I've been trying to reach you. I noticed, along with half the industry, apparently. Trading on family connections now. He had the grace to look embarrassed. I can explain. Save it. I turned to walk away, then stopped. You know what's funny? All those years ago, when Mom and Dad bet everything on you, this is exactly what they were hoping for, except they backed the wrong horse. That's not fair, he protested. I didn't know about the college fund until after. Until after what? Until after you had your perfect wedding? Until after you blew through my future for your big day? I stepped closer. Or until after your business ventures failed and you needed to ride someone else's coattails? Mom and Dad are in trouble, he blurted out. The house, their savings. They're about to lose everything. I thought if I could just get established in the industry. Stop. I held up my hand. Whatever you're about to ask, the answer is no. Lena, please, they're our parents. My phone buzzed again. Another investor calling. Another opportunity waiting. They made their choice, Knox. Now they can live with it. I turned to my assistant. Please show my brother out and make sure he's added to the no-entry list. As the elevator doors closed on Knox's defeated face, I felt nothing. The scared little sister who'd lost everything at his wedding was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, someone who'd built her own future from the ground up, someone who no longer needed their approval or their love. He's still out there, Vanessa said, peering through the restaurant window. Knox sat on a bench across the street from our regular lunch spot, his shoulders slumped. He can stay there all day for all I care. I stabbed at my salad. It's been 2 weeks of this, following me to meetings, waiting outside my apartment, sending endless messages. Maybe you should. Don't say hear him out. Actually, Vanessa leaned forward. I was going to say maybe you should destroy him completely. I put down my fork. What do you mean? Quinton called again this morning. He wants to meet. Says he has an interesting proposition regarding Knox. My phone lit up with another text from my brother. Please, just 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. Set up the meeting, I told Vanessa. Quinton's office was everything you'd expect from someone trying too hard to prove their success. All chrome and leather, with a view slightly less impressive than mine. He stood as we entered, adjusting his expensive tie. Lena, Vanessa, thank you for coming. He gestured to the seats across from his desk. Can I offer you anything? Water? Coffee? Just the reason for this meeting, I said, sitting down. Direct as always. He smiled. Very well. I have a proposal that could benefit us both. Your brother has been persistent in his attempts to join quantum events. So I've heard. What you might not have heard is that he's been shopping around a business plan, one that directly competes with both our company's core markets. Quinton slid a folder across the desk. He's been meeting with investors claiming insider knowledge of our operations. I opened the folder. Inside were photos of Knox meeting with various investors, copies of his business plan, and transcripts of conversations where he mentioned his sister's success story as proof of his industry expertise. How did you get all this? Quinton shrugged. I have my sources. The question is, what are we going to do about it? We? I raised an eyebrow. I propose a partnership. We pool our resources, crush his attempt to enter the market, and then… He paused dramatically. We divide the spoils. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Knox, it was my mother. Lena, please, your father's had a heart attack. The words on the screen blurred. Vanessa, reading over my shoulder, squeezed my arm. I'll need to think about your offer, I told Quinton, standing abruptly. Send me the details in writing. Outside his office, Vanessa grabbed my arm. Are you going to the hospital? No. But my voice wavered. Lena. They made their choice. The words echoed in the empty hallway. They chose Knox. They always chose Knox. And now you have the power to choose, she said softly. The question is, what kind of person do you want to be? I found Knox still waiting outside my office. When he saw me, he jumped up, but before he could speak, I held up my hand. How bad is it? Dad's stable, but… He ran a hand through his hair. The medical bills are going to be massive. They already remortgaged the house for my failed startup. They have nothing left. And let me guess, you need my help? Not for me, his voice cracked. For them. I know I don't deserve your help. I know I was blind to my own privilege, but they're our parents, Lena. I thought about Quinton's offer, about the satisfaction of watching Knox fail again. Then I thought about my father in a hospital bed, my mother worried about bills instead of his recovery. If, I said slowly, and I mean if, I consider helping, it won't be through you, and it won't be free. What do you mean? You want to work in this industry? Fine. Start at the bottom, like I did. No name dropping, no riding coattails. Prove yourself. I'll do anything, he said quickly. And Mum and Dad, I continued. They need to understand exactly what they did. No excuses, no justifications. I want them to feel the weight of their choice. They do, Knox whispered. Every day when they see your success, every time they read about you in the business news. They know they bet on the wrong child. My phone buzzed again. Quinton probably wondering about his offer. I declined the call. I'll visit Dad tomorrow, I said finally. Not for you, not even for them, but because I need to know that when I succeed, and I will succeed even more than I already have, it's because I chose to rise above, not because I stepped on others to get there. Knox nodded, tears in his eyes. And Knox, I added as I turned to leave, if you ever use my name to advance yourself again, I'll make sure you never work in this industry. Are we clear? Crystal, he said. As I walked away, I deleted Quinton's number from my phone. Revenge might be sweet, but I was starting to think success, real success, might taste even better. The hospital corridor smelled of disinfectant and stale coffee. I stood outside room 412, my heels sinking into the industrial carpet, while my mother's voice drifted through the half-open door. Gilbert, please eat something. The doctor said. She stopped mid-sentence when she saw me. Lena? 5 years had aged her more than I expected. Grey streaked her once perfect hair, and worry lines creased her face. She stepped into the hallway, closing the door behind her. I didn't think you'd come, she said. Neither did I. I handed her the coffee I'd brought. How is he? Stable, stubborn. He won't eat the hospital food. She took a sip and grimaced. Knox said you two talked. We did. An uncomfortable silence stretched between us. A nurse walked past, checking charts. Lena, about the wedding, she started. Don't. I held up my hand. I'm not here to rehash the past. I'm here because... I paused, choosing my words carefully. Because I need to know if you understand what you did. We thought we were doing the right thing, she said quietly. Knox's wedding was supposed to be his entry into society, his chance to make connections. And look how well that turned out. The words came out sharper than intended. You sacrificed my future for his one day of glory, and now he's reduced to begging for scraps from my success. Tears welled in her eyes. We were wrong. So terribly wrong. My phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. Quinton's spreading rumours about Knox. Want me to handle it? I typed back quickly. No, let him talk. I have a better idea. Mom, I said, putting my phone away. I'm going to help with Dad's medical bills. Her head snapped up. Lena, we couldn't possibly... I'm not finished. There are conditions. I met her eyes. First, you and Dad will attend therapy, both individually and as a couple. You need to understand why you consistently chose Knox over me. She nodded, wiping her eyes. Second, Knox starts at the bottom in my company. Mailroom, minimum wage, no special treatment. If he wants to learn the business, he'll learn it properly. He'll do it, she said quickly. He's changed, Lena. The failures humbled him. And third, I continued, you're going to help me with something. I explained my plan. Her eyes widened. You want us to what? Host a charity gala? Phoenix Events will organise it, but it needs to be at your country club, with all your old society friends in attendance. I smiled, the same ones who attended Knox's wedding. Understanding dawned on her face. You want them to see. I want them to see exactly what their precious social connections are worth compared to hard work and determination. I checked my watch. The event will raise money for scholarships, for students whose families chose society weddings over their education. A weak voice called from inside the room. Is that Lena? Mom opened the door. Dad lay in the hospital bed, looking smaller than I remembered. His eyes lit up when he saw me. Princess, he said, using my childhood nickname. You came. Don't call me that. I moved to his bedside. I'm not your princess anymore. I'm a businesswoman who built her own castle. He reached for my hand. After a moment's hesitation, I let him take it. We watched every news segment about you, he said. Kept every article. Your mother has a scrapbook. Gilbert, Mom warned. No, let him talk. I pulled my hand away. Did you enjoy watching from afar as I succeeded despite you, not because of you? His face crumpled. We were wrong. I was wrong. The day you left the wedding, I knew we'd made a terrible mistake. But you never tried to fix it. We didn't know how, Mom interjected. You were so angry, so hurt, and then you became so successful. We were ashamed. My phone buzzed again. Quinton, think carefully about refusing my offer. Your brother's reputation isn't the only one I can ruin. I showed them the message. Quinton's trying to destroy Knox's chances in the industry. He wanted my help to do it. And you refused? Dad asked. I did. Because success isn't about destroying others. It's about rising above. I stood up. The gala is in 3 weeks. I'll have my team contact you with details. At the door, I turned back. Oh, and Dad, get better soon. You'll need your strength to watch your children succeed or fail on their own merits. No more playing favourites. As I walked out of the hospital, I texted Vanessa. Set up a meeting with Quinton. It's time he learned what happens when you threaten a phoenix. The game was changing. Revenge wasn't my goal anymore. Justice was. And justice, I was learning, could take many forms. Your brother's doing surprisingly well in the mailroom, Vanessa said, adjusting a flower arrangement in the country club's grand ballroom. He hasn't complained once. He asked for a chance to prove himself. I checked the table settings for the 100th time. Let's see if he takes it. The charity gala was tomorrow night, and everything had to be perfect. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, each table decorated with elegant centerpieces. The guest list included every social climber who'd attended Knox's wedding 5 years ago. Ms. Lena, one of our new interns approached nervously. Mr. Quinton is here. He's demanding to speak with you. Perfect timing. I smoothed my dress. Send him in. Quinton stormed through the double doors, his face red with anger. You're poaching my clients? Lower your voice, I said calmly. This is a private club. Half my client list cancelled their contracts this morning. All of them mentioned Phoenix Events' new small business initiative. He stepped closer, trying to intimidate me. This is because I threatened your precious brother, isn't it? Actually, it's because you're charging luxury prices for mediocre service. I handed him a folder. These are complaints from your former clients. Poor communication, hidden fees, subpar vendors. Should I continue? You bit. Careful, Vanessa interrupted, stepping forward. There are witnesses. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Your father's being released tomorrow. He insists on coming to the gala. Here's what's going to happen, I told Quinton. You're going to back off. No more threats, no more rumours. Focus on improving your own business instead of trying to destroy others. Or what? Or I release these complaints to the press. I'm sure your investors would love to read about your business practices. He crumpled the folder in his fist. This isn't over. Actually, it is. I nodded to security, who appeared at his elbows. Please escort Mr. Quinton out, and make sure he's not on tomorrow's guest list. After he left, Vanessa whistled low. That felt good to watch. It did, I admitted, but it's not the main event. The next evening I stood at the entrance, greeting guests as they arrived. Each face was familiar from Knox's wedding, the same people who'd witnessed my family choose him over me. Lena, darling, Mrs. Patterson air-kissed my cheeks. We've read so much about your success. Who would have thought? Not my parents, I said sweetly. They bet everything on Knox's wedding instead of my education. She blanched and hurried inside. Knox arrived early, wearing a rented tuxedo. The mailroom's teaching me humility, he said, attempting a joke. Good. I handed him a stack of programs. Make yourself useful. My parents arrived last. Dad looked frail in his tuxedo, Mom supporting his arm. They hesitated at the entrance. You came, I said. We wouldn't miss it, Dad replied, though I'm not sure we deserve to be here. You don't, I agreed, but that's not the point. Inside, I took the stage for my speech. The room fell silent. 5 years ago, many of you attended another event in this very room, my brother's wedding. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. What you didn't know was that wedding was funded with my college tuition. My future was sacrificed for one day of social climbing. I saw my mother duck her head in shame. Today we're launching the Phoenix Scholarship Fund for every student whose family prioritized appearances over education, for every dream deferred by social pressure. I paused. And my parents are making the first donation by selling their country club membership. Gasps echoed through the room. Mom and Dad nodded slowly, accepting their role in this moment. Success isn't about who you know or which family you're born into. It's about hard work, determination, and rising above circumstances that try to break you. I raised my glass. To second chances. Earned, not given. After the speech, Dad approached me slowly. The membership was your mother's pride and joy. I know. We're selling the house too, he said quietly. It's too big, too expensive. We found a smaller place. Good. Lena, he touched my arm. I know we can never make up for what we did, but watching you tonight, seeing the woman you've become despite us, not because of us, I've never been more proud or more ashamed. Those feelings can coexist, I said, just like love and accountability. Across the room, Knox was diligently checking guest names against the donation list. Vanessa was networking with potential clients, and my mother was explaining to her society friends why she was giving up her membership. My phone buzzed one last time. A text from Quinton. You win. I deleted it without responding. This wasn't about winning anymore. It was about setting things right, not just with my family, but with myself. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's growing strong enough to rise above it. Knox, these reports are actually good. I flipped through the market analysis he'd prepared after 3 months in the company. Who knew you had it in you? We sat in my office, the city lights twinkling behind us. Knox had worked his way up from the mailroom to junior analyst, pulling double shifts and taking online business courses in his spare time. I learned from watching you, he said. The way you built Phoenix Events from nothing. It's inspiring. Flattery will get you nowhere. But I couldn't help smiling. Though your analysis of the tech sector's event needs is spot on. My phone lit up with a message from Mom. The house closes tomorrow. Found some old photos you might want. How are they doing? Knox asked, noticing my expression. In the new place? It's an adjustment. Dad's pride took a hit, moving from their mansion to a 2-bedroom condo. I set down the report. But therapy's helping them understand why they made the choices they did. And you? Is it helping you? Before I could answer, Vanessa burst into the office. Turn on the news, now. I grabbed the remote, switching on the wall-mounted TV. Quinton's face filled the screen standing outside his company's building. You'll regret to announce that Quantum Events is filing for bankruptcy, he was saying. Recent investigations into our business practices have revealed... Holy shit, Knox whispered. I had nothing to do with this, I said quickly. I mean, yes, I warned some clients about his practices, but... It wasn't you, Vanessa interrupted. It was me. Well, partly. Remember those complaints we collected? I may have sent them to a journalist friend. I stared at her. Vanessa? What? He threatened you, tried to manipulate you into destroying your own brother. She crossed her arms. Nobody messes with my best friend. Knox cleared his throat. About that, there's something you should know. We both turned to him. Quinton approached me last week, offered me a job, said he'd make me regional director if I shared Phoenix's client information. He looked down at his hands. I told him no. Then I reported him to the Business Ethics Board. You did what? I sat back, stunned. I chose my sister over an easy path. He met my eyes. For once. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Dad. Found your Stanford acceptance letter in the attic. Never felt more ashamed, or more proud of who you've become despite us. I need to show you something, I told Knox, standing up. Both of you. I led them to the conference room where a presentation was set up for tomorrow's board meeting. The title slide read, Phoenix Events, Next Generation Leadership Structure. What is this? Vanessa asked. My 5-year succession plan. I clicked through the slides. Vanessa, you'll be taking over as CEO. Your business instincts are sharper than mine, and your loyalty is unquestionable. She gasped. Lena, I can't. You can. And you will. I turned to Knox. And you, assuming you continue to prove yourself, will head our new tech division, starting as deputy director, working your way up. Properly this time. What about you? Knox asked. I'm launching a foundation. The Phoenix Scholarship Fund was just the beginning. I showed them the final slides. We'll provide education and mentorship to students whose families can't, or won't, support their dreams. Vanessa wiped tears from her eyes. You're amazing, you know that? I'm practical, I corrected. Success means nothing if you don't use it to lift others up. A knock at the door interrupted us. Mom stood there holding a cardboard box. Sorry to interrupt, she said, but I found these and couldn't wait. She set the box on the conference table. Inside were photos, report cards, academic awards, my entire childhood of achievements that they'd kept but never celebrated. We were so focused on Knox's potential that we missed the star right in front of us, she said softly. The therapist helped us see that we were living through him, trying to fulfill our own social ambitions. I picked up a photo of teenage me receiving a science award. Why bring these now? Because, she took a deep breath, I want them displayed at the foundation's opening as a reminder of what happens when parents prioritize the wrong things. If you'll let me help with the foundation, that is. I looked around the room, at Vanessa, my fierce protector, at Knox, finally becoming the brother I'd always wanted, at Mom, trying to right old wrongs. The foundation launches next month, I said. There's a lot of work to do. I'm ready, she said, to support you finally, the way we should have all along. I handed her a business card. Meetings tomorrow at 9. Don't be late. As she left, clutching the card like a lifeline, I realized something. Sometimes the family you rebuild is stronger than the one you were born into. And sometimes the best revenge is showing others how to rise. The Phoenix Foundation's opening gala buzzed with energy. Students mingled with business leaders, sharing their dreams and aspirations. On the wall, a digital counter displayed the number of scholarships already awarded, 57 and counting. Your speech is in 5 minutes, Vanessa said, appearing at my elbow. Nervous? Terrified. I adjusted my necklace, a phoenix pendant, a gift from Knox. Did you see who's here? She nodded toward the entrance where my father stood greeting guests. He'd insisted on working the door, saying he needed to welcome every student personally. Hard to believe this is the same man who once traded my education for a wedding, I murmured. People change, Vanessa said. Speaking of which, Knox approached, leading a young woman in a simple blue dress. Lena, this is Maria. She's one of our scholarship recipients. My parents wanted me to get married instead of going to college, Maria said softly. Then I read about you in the business journal, about what happened with your family and how you succeeded anyway. And now? I asked. I'm starting MIT next fall, she smiled. My parents aren't speaking to me, but you're rising anyway, I finished. Come see me tomorrow. I think we have an internship that might interest you. As Maria walked away, Knox cleared his throat. The tech division's numbers came in. We're up 30% from last quarter. I know. I straightened his tie. I may have given up the CEO position, but I still read the reports. Old habits die hard? He teased. Something like that. Mom appeared, carrying a folder. Everything's ready for the announcement. I took the stage, looking out over the crowd, the faces blurred together, business leaders, students, family, friends, all part of this strange, beautiful journey. 5 years ago, I stood in this room and announced the Phoenix Scholarship Fund. Today, we're taking it further. I opened the folder Mom had given me. The Phoenix Foundation isn't just about scholarships anymore. We're launching a mentorship program, connecting students with business leaders who can guide them. Applause rippled through the room. But that's not all. I paused, finding my parents' faces in the crowd. My parents have agreed to share their story, our story, as part of the program, to show other families the cost of prioritizing social status over their children's dreams. Dad wiped his eyes. Mom squeezed his hand. And finally, I continued, we're partnering with companies across the country to provide paid internships because talent shouldn't be limited by financial constraints. I smiled at Maria, or by other people's expectations. After the speech, I found my parents by the photo wall, the one displaying my childhood achievements alongside news clippings of my success. I have something for you, Dad said, pulling out an envelope. Inside was a check, the exact amount of my original college fund. We can't change the past, he said, but we've been saving every penny since the heart attack. It's not about the money anymore, it's about acknowledging what we took from you. Keep it, I said, handing it back. Donate it to the foundation. Let it help someone else rise. We're so proud of you, Mom whispered. Not because of your success, but because of how you've used it. You could have destroyed us, destroyed Knox. Instead, you showed us a better way. Vanessa called out from across the room. Lena, the reporters are here. Go, Dad said. We'll be here. As I walked away, I heard Knox telling Maria about his journey from the mailroom to director. Heard Mom explaining to a donor how the Foundation's family counselling program worked. Saw Dad greeting another student with tears in his eyes. This wasn't the revenge I'd once dreamed of. It was better. It was purpose. My phone buzzed. A message from a number I didn't recognise. It was Quinton. You were right. About everything. Any chance your foundation needs another cautionary tale? I showed the message to Vanessa. What do you think? I think, she said slowly, that rising above means helping others rise too, even former enemies. I typed back, Monday, 9 a.m. Bring your story. The gala continued around me, a swirl of dreams being born, bridges being built, wounds being healed. In the corner, Knox and Maria chatted with potential investors. By the door, Dad hugged a crying student whose parents hadn't shown up. At the podium, Mom prepared to share our story with the press. This was my legacy. Not the company I'd built, but the lives I'd helped rebuild. Not the success I'd achieved, but the opportunities I'd created. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's showing the world how to fly.